Hi, this is Nathan. Welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we're here today to talk about episode 431A, Where There's Smoke.
Dun dun dun. What happens? What is where there's smoke, Dylan?
Where there's smoke?
There's a podcast. Duh.
Oh, okay. I thought where there's smoke and the virtual kid. That's how that saying goes, right?
Yes.
Spoilers for next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a half episode, as we are wont to do right now. It originally aired November 20th of 1999. It is written by Jim Ware, directed by Phil Lawler.
Classic.
I mean, what else can you expect here?
This is a very, I don't know how much this episode stuck out to you in your childhood, as far as, like, this one definitely got seared into my memory at a young age.
Ah, interesting.
Is like, in, like, the likes of, like, you know, Mortal Coil and Stormy Weather and those, like, very intense episodes where I was like, Odyssey, what are you doing?
Interesting.
But this was definitely up there. Well, I mean, it's, you know, it's the one about not smoking, so... Duh.
A cause near and dear to Andrew's heart.
Yes. Notorious not smoker, Andrew.
We'll
Don't listen to my voice, please.
Everybody loves your voice, Andrew.
Oh, thanks.
As we've been doing for this series, it has an 86% on the wiki with 34 votes. I'm okay with that.
I vibe with that rating.
I think this is a pretty good episode.
Yeah. No, I genuinely like it.
The last two episodes were both like people's first episodes working on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Ware never wrote a ton. I think he's got like 12 credits to his name, but this is like solidly in the middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
He started with like opening day, which we covered very early on.
Yes, we did.
And so it's not like he's still figuring it out at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Which
seems to adjust to the half episode pretty well. This is the first one that I think feels like they just took like the A plot from an episode and cut the B plot. Because we talk a lot about like episodes of Odyssey where there's like A, B, sometimes C, like plots going on, and they just kind of cut between all of them. Mm-hmm. And this feels very much like an A plot that they never cut away from.
Yeah. Like an A plot that there was something else going on with like Connie or something like that was never really talked about. Right.
Where like the last couple episodes feel very like strung together, not really like coherently structured. And this is like, no, this is exactly how you'd write this episode, you know, in a different era of Odyssey. You just also have a second storyline going on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh goodness.
Yeah. So the gist of this episode, we have Nick Mulligan, famous Odyssey kid. This is not his first appearance.
No.
He's been around for a little bit, but he meets Nathaniel Graham, and they decide to, you know, he's going off to interview for Wit's End. Oh, right. Well, so he beats up, or threatens to beat up Rodney.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a great opening scene.
It really is. Basically, Nathaniel's like, are they in McAllister Park? I think.
I would assume. It seems very McAllister Parky.
Or I'm trying to. I know one of them's in McAllister Park. I'm not sure if this one's like in Wit's End or not. Anyway, Nathaniel's being bullied by
This
Rodney.
is not in Wit's End, because they then go to Wit's End.
Yeah. And then Nick Mulligan's walking along to go interview at Wits End and sees Rodney picking on Nathaniel, and, stands up for him with his proper New York accent and his, 4 years of seniority and presumably a patch of hair on his lower lip.
Yeah, I mean, Rodney's been picking on kids for 10 years at this point.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. He's a seasoned pro, but he's never met Nick Mulligan, who
True. It's true.
At least sound like half of a boxer. If it was like Joe Mulligan, then I'd be like, oh boy, that guy can wallop. That's past punching.
Nick half a boxer Mulligan.
That's my least favorite kind of underwear, when it's just one leg.
Dang it, Andrew. All right. But yeah, he shows off he's like, I'm gonna. Ronnie's like, I'll take you, and he's like, all right, Nathaniel, can you hold my ring here?
Yeah.
It says NYC boxing champ.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
oh, so he's a legit boxer. Okay.
Yep. And
I feel like it takes a lot to be NYC boxing champ. That's not like Boise, Idaho boxing champ. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a lot of competition that Nick had to weed through.
No, I mean that's pretty legit. I assume it's in a specific age bracket, but still.
Yeah. Or he just bought it at a pawn shop or something.
I mean, I would love that as a grift. Actually, my favorite read on this, because it's Nathaniel who reads the thing. Mm-hmm. My favorite read is that he just bluffs it.
Oh.
There's no way that's what happens, because Nathaniel's so pathetic.
Yeah.
But just the idea of Nick's like, here, take my ring, and he looks at it and goes, New York City boxing champ, and Rodney just runs.
You beat the stuffing out of somebody. How did you get that on this ring? It's carved all the way around.
You can only see it when you stick it in
the
fire.
Yeah. We should have a podcast or something. We just get along too well. Oh, goodness. Yeah. And then and Rodney knowingly, perhaps wisely, leaves and gets scared off because he doesn't want to deal with the air quotes NYC boxing champ.
Yeah. I like this for Nick.
Yeah, I love this for Nick. Sticking it up for the kid that's getting bullied. Especially because, he's new in town. He doesn't really work at Wits End yet at this point. Nope. So, he doesn't really already have an in with these kids. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a strong character, high integrity man, Nick Mulligan.
Yeah. It's also, it's, well, I guess we'll get into that later. Never mind. But yeah, it's a I don't know. It's fun. I like it. I like it as a start. It sets up, if you are not someone who knows who Nick is, it still sets him up very well.
Yeah.
Very quickly. And yeah, then.
So yeah, Nathaniel's headed over to Wits End as well. And then Nick goes in to interview with Whit to see if he gets the job. And then, so Nick is meeting with Whit, and basically Whit hires him on the spot, essentially. I mean, presumably he filled out an application. Has that ever happened to you, where you get offered a job way earlier on in the process than you thought you were going to?
Yeah, so I had an interview that I was an hour and a half late to.
Wow.
Because I made a wrong turn and then nearly ran out of gas and had to stop.
Oh, no.
And so I walked into this interview feeling terrible.
Yeah.
We interviewed and they offered me the job.
Did you take it?
I did not.
Okay.
But it was they were like, because I was up front with, I had a bunch of interviews coming up and I was up front with them and was like, hey, I've got, another interview. And the guy was like, if we offered you the job right now, would you still go to that other interview? And I said yes.
Yikes.
And they still gave me the job offer.
Nice.
But I did not take it.
That is such a weird thing, though, when they, I don't know. maybe you're just better planned than I am. Whenever I receive a job offer, even if I've thought about it, I always feel like I'm on my heels and I'm like, wait. I have to make a decision now.
Yeah, but right, that was just a thing of like, oh, I'm not making a decision now. Like yeah, that was looking for. I mean, that was me looking for like real job. Like that wasn't like fill in on something after school.
Yeah,
or whatever. So, but yes, I have been offered a job like
preemptively.
On the spot.
Yeah.
How about you, Andrew?
Yeah, no, it's happened. That was how I want to say most of them have been like if I get the job, they tell me very, very, very early on, like where they're like, oh, we really like you for this position, we would love to offer you a position or whatever. And yeah, every single time I'm like, I know I have been heavily considering this, but I feel like you've just sprung this on me.
Yeah, but you're allowed to take time, Andrew.
Yeah, no, that's what I've started to do. I made that mistake, I think in elementary school in the coal mines when Andrew was toiling away under Kissel Hill.
Mm-hmm. That's how his voice got like that.
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome. But in high school, like the high school job that I worked at the longest, I was offered a job by a very pretty woman very early on in the interview process, and I was completely caught off guard. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Please, yes. And I ended up working there for 3 years. So, it was... But during the first 6 months, I was like, man, I totally should have taken more time to think about this. Because it was definitely, like... There were parts of the job that I didn't really consider fully before I had accepted. But post-graduation, I shall say, like post-high school graduation, I've been very good about, making sure that I'm prepared going into interviews. So that if somebody like Whit comes up and just wants me to, start cleaning a freezer right away, I'm more prepared to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, Whit's just like, start right away. You can go like do some cleanup in the back.
Yeah, please.
Like, all right, cool. I'm all for like I'm a fan of Nick. I like him as another Wits End employee during
cleaning the freezer sucks though.
Yeah.
That is a not fun job.
It's like interesting. I don't know that I could have said that he and Eugene overlapped at Wits End. Mm-hmm. Because I very much felt like he's the
I mean, I'm sure they do, but yeah, they
like he's the person to fill in once Eugene,
steps away,
goes. But they, what was I gonna say? I don't know. Oh, he's Nick is played by, and I know we're not really doing cast this season, but occasionally I'm gonna highlight stuff because someone we didn't really talk about before. But he's played by a guy named Christopher Castile. Sure, why not? Who was in like Stuff.
Interesting.
Like he was a regular on the WB sitcom Step by Step. Played like one of the kids in that show. He was Ted in the Beethoven movies, or at least the first two. Mm-hmm. And he was a voice on Hey Arnold. He played a character called Eugene.
The irony.
So ironic. But yeah, fun stuff from Mr. Christopher Castile. And then this is Odyssey is like the last thing he ever did in showbiz. So I don't know.
God love child acting. It always goes over well.
Hey,
he's 42 years old, apparently.
Okay, good to know. So he starts cleaning up, and I don't remember quite the sequence of events, but does Nathaniel have some sort of conversation with Whit, or does Whit have a conversation with Nick? There's something.
There's
something that sets it up, right?
Yeah, the next day, Whit comes up to Nick and is like talking to him about like how hard he's been working around the shop and everything, and I think he mentions Nathaniel specifically, like how much Nathaniel likes him.
Yeah, Nick's just real cool about it. He's like, yeah, he's a good kid. And yeah, there's this point then where like Nathaniel is coming around and like throws a door into Nick and
Yeah,
like knocks over a tray of ice cream, and like they have that sort of thing.
Yeah, because Nick, Nathaniel's like desperately trying to help Nick, who's his new friend.
Yep.
And of course, in proper sitcom fashion, everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and we'll laugh at it. So yeah, ice cream spilled. I think like doesn't like something hit Nathaniel or Nick in the face at some point, other than the cigarette, but that's later.
Yeah, sure, probably.
But yeah, so Nathaniel is just like desperately trying to be friends with Nick.
Yeah, and Nick is like reciprocates pretty well.
Yeah, no, he
And,
seems like
throws out like a bunch of stuff of like, hey, you want to do, and like lists off all this outdoor stuff, and Nathaniel is like,
nah.
no. But then they go and they play video games, and like they're actually like having fun together.
Yeah.
And Nick starts calling him Nate, and Nathaniel very much turns into like speech wise turns into Hogarth in the Iron Giant. When Hogarth's trying to be like trying to hang out with Dean and be all cool.
Yeah,
Look, guys, if you haven't seen the Iron Giant, why not?
Do it, please. It's so good. Skip our episode and go watch the Iron Giant. I'm okay with that. This will be around. Just go watch that.
Yeah, but he just like it's the same kind of cadence. He's trying to play everything off like he's cool and chill. And,
Oh yeah. But it's also like it's clearly unnatural too, where it's like
he's putting on an act.
he's a not cool kid trying to be cool,
Right,
not
right.
a cool
Which is
kid.
so
letting it
endearing.
roll off the back.
Yeah, and Nick refers to Wit as Wit, and Nathaniel's like, whoa, you call him Wit? He's like, yeah, we're tight, man. and then after Nathaniel walks away, Wit's like, let's stick to Mr. Whitaker on the job.
Yeah.
Which I know Eugene does because of
Properness.
like because Eugene doesn't like nicknames.
Yeah. But Connie
100% calls him Wit, and maybe it's just like Nick's not there yet.
Yeah.
Like he's overly familiar.
Yeah.
But like Connie calls him Wit on
all
and
the
off
time.
the job.
Yeah.
The
In front
job.
of children, in front of adults.
Yeah. And it was this point where I'm like, wow, this is like this episode pulls it together and is better than what I was expecting. But at this point I was like, we are just redoing Connie Comes to Town.
Yeah.
It's going to be this thing where like he's got too much responsibility over this child, and then Wit tells him that like you have influence, and he's like, nah, I don't, and then like sees the error in his ways and whatever. And they avoid that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to think that's because like they've grown as like a show and are doing better now, and not that Nick is a man.
Yeah.
But jury's still out.
Fingers crossed, we're hoping.
But yeah, Nick's then outside. Wit leaves, very trusting, and Nick closes up Wit's end, and he actually closes it up properly. Like I was like, man, is he gonna like screw up in some way? That's like a thing that Aubrey does at one point.
Like leave. I think Connie leaves the cash drawer open at one point.
Right. It's like everybody
everybody
does.
screws up.
Oh, I forgot about the Nick and Erica stuff in Novacom.
Oh yeah. That's worth revisiting. I think we should do a Nick Mulligan series.
I think we should do Novacom again, you know?
Honestly, there are worse ideas than recovering something we've already covered.
Yeah, doing an entire summer of split episodes might be one of those ideas.
I don't think so. I think it's very fun.
But then outside, after closing up Wit's End, Nick lights up a cigarette.
Yeah, and he's puffing up, and
Nathaniel comes by and is like,
oh,
I didn't know you smoked. And Nick's like, yeah, don't pick up this habit or whatever. It's just I got it back in New York where all the hard kids are. And yeah,
Nathaniel's upset that Nick smokes, and Nick's like, well, I just picked it up in my neighborhood. Everybody did it, which, fair. Like, Fair. I didn't realize how big of a thing that was until I went to places like New York City, or especially when I was in Europe. Just everybody smokes all the time. And you're just like, even now with all of the information about, cigarettes and cancer and everything, like, it's just such a thing.
Did all that information stop you, Andrew?
No, not even a little bit. No. Perhaps it. No, it definitely should have. Not a perhaps. It definitely should have.
Do you want to get into it? Or
Sure.
I don't want to force you into being vulnerable with the Chalk Squad. But,
No, certainly not.
But we're talking about the smoking episode.
Yeah, no.
Well,
it's
and also
very appropriate.
I should acknowledge that this is Nick smoking is not a thing established in this episode. Mm-hmm. That was set up in the past. Mm-hmm. Like, that is like part of, like, his whole thing is like, we don't know what the deal is with his parents. Mm-hmm. He moved away from New York. Mm-hmm. He is adopted by the Mulligan family, mm-hmm. Who own this big old farm.
Yeah.
And there is, I think in the same way that we see Kelly smoking, mm-hmm. because it's like, it's the one thing that you can kind of get away with in Odyssey as like a vice. Mm-hmm. Where it's like,
it's not as bad as drinking technically, but it's still very bad. And like,
enough... like they can be like, oh, this is a bad thing, but this is not like, I don't know. It's also maybe more. I mean,
he could be smoking PCP. We would have no way of knowing.
Right. Yeah. I wonder what the difference is between it and drinking. I mean, like, the age limit is different at the time of the show.
Yeah.
But like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't entirely know.
I think it's just a cultural thing. I think it's more culturally normal to have like a kid smoke a little bit at a younger age than it is for like a kid to have drinks or whatever. Because typically kid has drinks at a younger age, kid gets super sick, whatever, yada yada.
Right.
Kid has a cigarette at a younger age, he's like, why do you adults do this, you idiot?
Yeah, and it's not like they don't do, because when we talked about it with the Pokenberry episodes, like we do occasionally brush up against drinking in the show. We even talked about it when we just did Connie Part 2. Mm-hmm. Keys to the liquor cabinet.
And isn't there drinking in with Aubrey in
maybe
like Under the Veil or whatever? Maybe it's not.
Under the influence.
Under the influence.
But yeah, I don't know.
Dylan has a story about being under the influence.
What's my story about being under the influence, Andrew?
Being pulled over for not actually being under the influence.
Oh, yeah. Andrew and I were coming back from a comedy show the other night and got pulled over by the police because, as best I can tell, like, I was driving unsafely, but I think it's because I was trying to pull off because he turned his lights on.
Yeah, no, my best understanding
that is where I'm at with it now. I did not get a ticket. I just got a warning. I did have to breathalyze, which was
do a sobriety test and everything.
Yeah,
it was really funny. The official terminology was improper lane movement.
Yes.
And you didn't switch lanes at any point. You just like hit the shoulder a little bit.
Right. And then tried to get over when
there was a cop behind
you. When he turned his lights on.
Yeah. As one does.
But it was a bizarre experience. But yes, that's my under the influence experience. That's what you were alluding to, Andrew?
Yes.
Great. Well, now that you've made me tell that,
I'll have to tell you. Yeah, okay.
How'd you start smoking, Andrew?
Well, okay. That's two different stories.
When did you have your first cigarette?
When I had my first cigarette when I was, I think, 15 or 16. I was in New York City.
Which is about the age that Nick is right here.
Yeah. I was in New York City with my brother, and he is...
Smoking capital of the world.
Yeah. Well, one of them. And we were there for my sister's 13th birthday. So my aunt was generous enough to put us up in a hotel in Manhattan. So we were just like kind of walking around, seeing the sights with Grace for her birthday. And it was at night, and Grace went up to the hotel room, and me and my brother were sitting out on the patio, just kind of like taking in the nightlife. And my brother went over to some guy, it was some homeless guy across the street, to bum a cigarette because he didn't have any, and he'd been doing that all day. And the homeless guy gave him 2, one for him and one for me. And so I had a cigarette from the homeless man. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, wow, it was a terrible time to start coughing.
It's beautiful, Andrew. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so that was how that happened. Don't smoke, kids. It's bad for you. I wish I hadn't at such a young age. But it was cool because my older brother was doing it, and he said it was okay, so.
And just one, and you were hooked for life?
That was exactly how that happened, yes. No, it wasn't like the 3 years of priming I had prior with my brother where he would be, like, smoking cigars on the deck and be like, Andrew, you're 13, come try this.
Jeez.
And I'm like, sure, okay. And when I take a puff, I'm like, oh, tastes like cigar. And he's like, don't you taste like the nuts and the butter and the earthiness and everything? And I'm like, no, not particularly. But it was cool, and it was something I was kind of getting away with, and it was very little. I didn't feel bad about it because it wasn't like I was inhaling or anything. And that's how it started. So don't. The answer is don't. The story's lesson is just don't.
Look, guys, if you were listening to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod and you thought, maybe I'm going to take up smoking.
Don't.
Apparently you've heard it from Andrew. Don't.
Just
if you want a cigar or a pipe every once in a while.
No judgment here. Yeah. I love cigars. I love pipes. I can't have cigars anymore because they make my stomach sick. Both ends. And pipes are delicious. Cigarettes, no. Vaping, even worse. I mean, I don't think that vaping's worse for you than cigarettes, but I think the amount of nicotine is greatly increased and the quantity of exposure is also increased. So whatever negative outcomes that has.
Slightly, like, the lack of unpleasantness seems to make it easier.
Yeah, no, that's exact. Like, that's it. Like, and it might just be the fact that you don't smell like smoke afterwards. Like, if they manage to make an odorless cigarette that you still lit, I think vapes might be in trouble. But it's such a big thing. And, like, for discrete purposes and for everything, yeah, it's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game to play. I say that with a vape next to me. Advise heavily against it. It's an expensive game.
This episode brought to you by
Dare.
yeah, I was gonna say the people against cigarettes.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. And then Nick shows up for work the next day, and it's in a frenzy, and Eugene's talking about, like, Mr. Whitaker having to go to the hospital, and Nick's like, oh no, what happened? Like, is freaking out. And then it's like, no, he had to go because of Nathaniel.
Who went for a respiratory issue, which is what they're saying here, but then it was because he burnt himself with a lighter.
Right. So I think Eugene thinks it's a respiratory issue.
Yeah.
And yeah, because he has asthma, so he's had to go to the hospital before. I also like this, like, I like the asthma thing, because then Nick's like, oh, that's why he didn't want to do, like, outdoor stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I appreciate both the asthma representation and like that it's not just him being a nerd and whatever. I don't have asthma. I know some people with asthma. Asthma? I know somebody with asthma who famously tried to smoke once. But they may have been a guest on the show.
Maybe. You'll have to guess.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
It's Brendan. He doesn't smoke.
But yeah, and Nick immediately, like, puts the pieces together and decides to take responsibility.
Which is so huge.
Yeah. He is aware of the influence he has on Nathaniel without people needing to, like, spell it out for him and convince him of it.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, I didn't realize he had asthma. Shoot.
I shouldn't have been smoking around that kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and like runs to the hospital, and gets there and like starts just spilling about everything. And Nathaniel's like, no, I burnt myself with a lighter. And
where did he get? I mean, okay, this is a different time. In my days, you can't buy a lighter unless you're 18. For presumably these exact purposes.
Yeah, but you can find a lighter.
Fair.
Your parents have a lighter.
True.
Like, you can...
I'm imagining Nathaniel with a candle Bic lighter outside.
Also, I didn't realize you had to be 18 to buy a lighter.
Yeah.
As someone who
I
doesn't
never tried.
smoke, I have not run into this situation.
Yeah. I don't think I ever tried to buy a lighter without it, but I know of... I think your brother maybe did.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it. I did try to buy a machete before I was 18 at a Walmart and got told no.
No. No weapons for you.
Yep.
But once you turn 18, you can get an AR-15. Love America.
Yeah.
What a country.
So, yeah. And then right. Nick just is like, he's like, you need to stop being so down on yourself, Nathaniel. You're not a loser. I'm a loser for smoking.
Yep.
And like, yeah, had I known, I wouldn't have around you. And you know what? Like, I'm not gonna anymore. And it doesn't make you look cool. And he walks off, and Wick goes, "Now that's what I call cool." Which is so funny coming out of Wick's mouth.
Yeah.
Like as much as I like enjoy this episode, it does become after school special at a certain point.
Very much so at the end there when Wit's... Well, because Wit does kind of layer it in earlier in their interaction. Like, because Wit comments on how much Nathaniel's hanging out with Nick.
Yeah, and Nick has a really cool attitude about it, where he's just like, yeah, like we've been doing stuff, it's been fun.
Yeah, like I like hanging out with this kid, he's chill.
Understands the power dynamic there.
Yeah.
And is not abusing it or acts or like unaware and so accidentally doing something. Like he understands what he's doing.
Which and then, it makes perfect sense then when the conflict arises that he just kind of rushes over there and is like, my bad.
Yeah.
I did a thing. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Yeah. Good guy, Nick.
Good guy, Nick. Love the episode.
Yeah.
I love smoking too. It's terrible, but I do love it.
Look, guys, watch Thank You for Smoking. That's my plug for the week. That is a really fun movie.
I've seen the end of it and only the end of it because Brendan was watching it one day.
Yeah.
All I know is that somebody is like tortured with nicotine patches, essentially.
Yeah, but you can't spoil the movie.
Okay, I won't.
The beauty. So the beauty of Thank You for Smoking. Aaron Eckhart plays. It's the first movie from Jason Reitman, who would go on to direct Juno and Up in the Air and the new Ghostbusters movie. And he. The premise is basically like we follow these like the protagonist of the movie is this big cigarette lobbyist.
Yeah, okay.
Who is trying to make cigarettes cool again.
They're so cool, though. I don't know what to say. They taste like death, and they hurt, and whenever you do something the day after you have one, it hurts even more. That sounds like cool.
They cost money.
Lots of money. Like a lot of money. And it doesn't matter where in the country you are. It still costs a lot of money.
And if you luck out, you can get cancer.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I mean, no. Actually, you want a good anti-smoking attitude. My grandfather, who smoked like 2 packs a day for 20-something years, said 25 times. You want to stop smoking 25 times. I had to have a rod stuck up my penis for colon cancer 25 times. That's what he told me. So yeah, I really want to quit. Chalk Squad, if you could be praying for me and my colon, that would be great. Yeah, that's my plug.
All right.
Oh, God. Meaning a different word than plug. That's my promotion for the week.
All right. Anything else we need to say here, buddy?
No.
All right. Then we're going to be back next week for episode 431B, The Virtual Kid.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Wadfam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at wadfamchalkpod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. Where There's Smoke was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Acebo and edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us again next time for more of the Wadfam Chalk Pod.